Title: Israel's Judicial Makeover, Democracy's Facelift or Its Undoing? TLDR, Netanyahu's posse has fired up a new judicial reform. Streets of Israel booming with protests. The big question, is this a fresh coat of paint on Israel's democracy or a jackhammer to its foundations? Street protests. Police on horseback. Water cannons. Sound like a scene from an action flick. Nope, just another day in Israel as Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu breathes new life in his controversial judicial reforms. And the people? Let's just say they're not lining up for popcorn. Remember that huge protest wave earlier this year? The one that made Netanyahu press the pause button on weakening Israel's judiciary? Well, that button's unstuck. The parliament, rallying behind the far-right vibes, has given a nod to the plan's initial phase. So, what's got everyone's feathers ruffled? The proposal aims to take the teeth out of Israel's judicial system, essentially saying, thanks, but we got this, to courts that might question decisions of elected officials. And if you're thinking, isn't that a bit dictatorial? You're not alone. On the Tel Aviv streets, we've got more Dinar, who had a not-so-friendly encounter with a police horse's hoof. Her take: Israel's treading dangerously close to dictatorship territory. We're trying to protect our country from dictatorship because we believe in democracy, she says, making a shout-out to the US for some backup. Speaking of US interjections, there's a fresh wave of protests planned outside the US Embassy in Tel Aviv. With the Biden administration in the picture and recent warnings against Israel's judicial makeover, it's like watching a political telenovela. Will they? Won't they? But back to the main plot. This judicial reform isn't just about the courtroom drama. It's shaking Israel's economy, with the currency seeing a near 10% drop since the year's start. Gas prices up. Food prices also up. Netanyahu, meanwhile, is playing a tricky game of political Jenga. He's leaning on his far-right pals for support. Last week, they wanted some action in the West Bank. Check. Now, they're eyeing the courts. But with the streets on fire and protesters pumping up the volume, how far can he go without it all coming crashing down? So, as Israel stands at this pivotal moment, will democracy's new look be its rejuvenation or its ruin? The million-dollar question, can the power of the people put the brakes on Netanyahu's train, or is this just the next stop in a bigger plan?